welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada, and this is From the South. We begin looking to the updated news coming from Guyana. Guyana's crucial general election came to an end with reports of a good voter turnout across the country. The day passed off peacefully as people line up for early in the morning. 65 parliamentary seats are up for grabs as the ruling APNU-AFC coalition led by President David Granger is seeking to see off a challenge from the opposition PPC. The election was called just over a year after the government lost a vote of confidence. The central issue for many voters is how any new government will manage Guyana's promised oil boom. Official results are expected on Tuesday.
Everything looking okay for the time, yeah. Everybody calm, everybody, you know. You got to do the right thing, right?
And what's the right thing?
Calm and wait for the result.
And so far, all the stations that we have, all the polling stations, the polling places that we visited have had a very good turnout. There have been peace and calm. The environment is very anticipatory. Everybody's just waiting, you know, to get their exercise their franchise. However, so far I have not seen any hiccups or anything. The process this time, I can say, is very, very organized. What they've done, several, like Monrepo has 3 different polling places, and they separated you according to location alphabetically. So when you go, there's somebody at the gate with your names, and they're checking and they're telling you which line to join. So because of that order, you know, people are able to finish in a faster and swifter manner, and it's been good.
However, there have been some counterclaims of irregularities. An hour before the polls closed, the PPC General Secretary Bart Jadjo posted a video refuting claims that his party distributed fake identification cards to mobilize voters.
We want to distribute ID cards openly to people on election day in front of the entire media and everyone else. And even ID cards do not matter, because even if you have a fake ID, you cannot vote. Your picture is on the folio, and the presiding officers are controlled by GCOM. But this is just a pretext. Now, they are desperate, so Basil Williams and Amnali went up to Monrepo. They took some supporters there, and they made this claim that now I just saw it, that Anil Nandalal was somehow involved in distributing the ID. And they carefully recorded it and put it on their page just to mobilize and rile up their supporters. And so people would feel that aggrieved and may want to either come out and vote or create trouble around the polling places. So this is a desperate attempt by APNU. The Commissioner of Police has disappeared. He promised to maintain the integrity of the polling places, to keep everything peaceful, to allow people to be able to vote. Right now, they're blocking people at potential from voting, and he has abdicated his responsibility and his promise to the people of the country.
And the APNU-AFC have since responded, calling the allegations false and mischievous. The coalition said its reports have found that voting proceeded in a peaceful manner, adding that it has received no reports of any incidents interfering with the normal electoral process. The APNU plus AFC further appealed to its supporters to remain calm.
The APNU plus AFC has noted a false and mischievous statement released by the leader of the opposition, Mr. Bart Jadjo, which follows a pattern of fake news that we have become accustomed to over the last 3 months from the People's Progressive Party. Early today, 2nd of March, the coalition warned its supporters and the people of Guyana that the People's Progressive Party will engage in that type of fake news and fear-mongering to set the stage for their excuses for certain political defeat. I have made no statement calling for a cancellation of the poll. I am very confident in the turnout of the people of Guyana at the polls today, and we look forward to a result which should eventuate in the returning of the coalition to office.
And all this that we were showing you happened over this Monday, over the day. And now we go back to Guyana to have more details of what happened and what is expecting for this coming Tuesday. Let's hear it from our correspondent, Alejandro Kirk, straight from Guyana. Welcome.
Greetings. The electoral journey ended today with a press conference here at the Electoral Commission, where most of us were expecting some figures, some results to be published. We had got word that there would be some, but there was none. They were very cautious in anticipating any figures about who is leading this race for the presidential and National Assembly race. Two main parties, two main groupings are contesting this election. The results seem to be something very close to be achieved. There is some tension in the atmosphere. There is the atmosphere is charged and among accusations of vote rigging, of false IDs, people trying to vote twice, overcrowding, and so forth. The authorities were very patient in responding all the questions by journalists. Most of them looked to us like minor issues regarding the what social networks are saying about massive rig of the vote and possible uprisings. It was not the atmosphere here in this press conference. They reassured people that by tomorrow, by even tonight, they will be releasing results as they come from the voting centers, and that tomorrow by noon there will be a sort of tendency to be exposed. So far, the situation then, apart from minor incidents in some areas of the capital and some denunciations of measures to prevent some people to vote on the borderline with Suriname and Venezuela, there is nothing that really would merit a denunciation as such. So the situation remains tense because nobody knows who is going to win, and the one who wins will be by it will be a very close call, and that is what has this situation developing here tonight in Guyana. Overnight, people would be checking the webpage, which is www.guyanaelections.com. Everybody can do that and be aware of what's happening here in this South American, the only English-speaking South American country. So that's what we have for now. Over to you.
Thank you, Alejandro. That was Alejandro Kirk, our special correspondent to Guyana for the follow-up of these elections. As he said, we'll be waiting for this Tuesday afternoon for the final results of these elections. Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back.
A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis, and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en ahí.
Dot in the eye. Saturdays, only on Telesur.
we are back with our news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has met with members of the National Dialogue Table to discuss plans to hold legislative elections later this year. This meeting within the framework of the dialogue table made up by the opposition sectors and the government was set to do follow-up to the agreements reached and to set up preparation for the upcoming designation of a new National Electoral Council towards parliamentary elections following this year's electoral schedule. Both parties, the government and the opposition, defined the reunion as fruitful and decisive. Moving on, women in Chile are expressing outrage over President Sebastián Piñera's statement during the signing of Gabriela Law, which is meant to strengthen the existing legislation against feminicide in the country. During his speech, Piñera said there are cases in which the responsibility is also on the victim. Social media users took to Twitter to express their anger. For example, lawmaker Maite Orsini said when Sebastián Piñera blames the victims for being abused, it only corroborates his machismo, his measurement policy, the policy of impunity, and his rejection of women.
Sometimes it's not only the men's willingness to abuse, but also the women's attitude to being abused. We need to correct the person who abuses, but also tell the women who are abused that they shouldn't allow this.
Also in Chile, a fresh round of protests have kicked off following President Sebastián Piñera's recent statements on sending military back on the streets. Our correspondent in Santiago de Chile, Paola Dragnik, has the details for us. Welcome, Paola.
Las desafortunadas declaraciones del presidente
President Sebastián Piñera said on Sunday that he wouldn't hesitate to reimpose a state of emergency and deploy military on the streets if it's necessary. While on Monday, President Piñera seemingly indicated that women are the ones responsible for abuse and femicide. These controversial statements have triggered a new wave of massive protests across Chile, with dozens marching in the capital Santiago and gathering its Dignity Square. Police have also deployed to disperse crowds, with several arrests already being carried out, including an underage child, Kyle Nicolas Rios. Police allegedly detained him, then later released him at night after investigating him. Chile's Carabineros police are also on the streets, arresting people, while the government has not yet addressed the series of human rights violations that were reported throughout the day.
Thank you, Paola. That was Paola Dragnik, straight from the streets of Chile. And now we move on to Colombia. President Iván Duque met with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington to discuss plans to fight drug trafficking in Colombia. This is the fourth meeting between the two leaders within a year and a half. President Trump pointed out that drug trafficking has increased by 50% since President Duque came into power in 2018. He suggested that Colombia will have to restart aerial spraying of the herbicide glyphosate in order to destroy coca crops, while President Duque stressed that all options needed to be combined, including manual eradication. Colombia suspended aerial fumigation of glyphosate in 2015 after the World Health Organization said the herbicide was harmful to the environment and health and potentially a provoker cause of cancer. On Tuesday, China and South Korea have lent each other a helping hand in jointly combating the COVID-19 outbreak, truly mirroring the names of a community of shared destiny and a community of a shared goal of defeating the epidemic. Chinese ambassador to South Korea, Shin Hai-ming, who assumed office in January 30 when the first case was reported in South Korea, said although the country's COVID-19 outbreak developed quickly over the past few weeks, the number of severe cases and deaths are relatively low. South Korea confirmed 599 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday, raising the total number of cases to 4,335, while the death toll climbed to 26. The rapid spread of the virus forced the country to raise its four-tier virus alert to the highest red level.
China and South Korea are friendly neighbors who assist each other and share well and woe. Since the epidemic of the novel coronavirus caused pneumonia broke out, the two countries have encouraged and supported each other, truly meriting the names of a community of shared destiny and a community of shared goal of defeating the epidemic. According to incomplete statistics, people from all social circles in China and Chinese-funded entities in South Korea have donated more than 200 million yuan, about $29 million US. We are deeply grateful for this. Last Thursday, my colleagues and I imagined to prepare some medical masks and ship them to Daegu as quickly as we can as an expression of our goodwill. Now people from all walks of life in China have taken actions to support South Korea. The 500,000 masks donated by the Shanghai municipal government have arrived in South Korea. Other parts of China, such as Qingdao City in Shandong province, are also doing what they can to help. Meanwhile, some friendly organizations and Chinese-funded entities in South Korea are also preparing relief supplies by all means, and the shipments will soon be made to the affected areas.
Senegal has confirmed its first coronavirus case, making it the second country in sub-Saharan Africa to be affected by COVID-19 outbreak. The first case in the region was recorded in Nigeria last week.
The results of the tests carried out by the Pasteur Institute in Dakar came back positive. So far, the patient's condition has not raised any major concern.
Meanwhile, Ecuador has detected 5 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number to 6. Health Minister Catalina Andramuño said the 5 are all relative of the first victim, a 71-year-old woman who arrived in the country from Spain on the 14th of February. Authorities are also monitoring some 177 people who would have come into contact with her, including passengers on her flight, other relatives and health care workers.
Which is to say the one closest to the index case, to the primary case, to the woman who tested positive. There have been 5 positive cases for COVID-19, which are found to be mildly symptomatic. We are monitoring them. We are controlling them.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has visited several medical research facilities at the forefront of the fight against the COVID-19 outbreak. Speaking during the visit, Xi said his government stands ready to provide all the material and financial support that the medical and research community requires to carry out their work. He added that significant progress has been made towards the development of safe, effective vaccines, medicines, and testing ranges. So far in China are 80,302 confirmed cases, 2,946 deaths, and fortunately 47,260 recovered patients. Time for a second and short break. We'll be right back.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays only on Telesur.
Elections are coming up front, and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar is now the second Democrat to withdraw her U.S. presidential bid in less than 24 hours. Klobuchar made the announcement on Monday and endorsed rival Joe Biden in an effort to unify voters against Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Sanders has taken the lead in mass Democratic primaries and caucuses except for South Carolina, which was won by Biden. Meanwhile, 14 states are set to vote on Super Tuesday, the single biggest day of the Democratic presidential race. On Sunday night, Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg announced he was pulling out of the race after he ranked fourth with just 8% of the vote in South Carolina. Buttigieg was the first openly gay U.S. presidential candidate for a major party. And still, Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has been drumming up support ahead of Super Tuesday after he came second in the South Carolina primary. Former Vice President Joe Biden won the South Carolina primary for Democratic presidential nomination, becoming the leading rival to front-runner Sanders. The Vermont senator has more support in Virginia, which is one of the 14 states that will go to the polls on Super Tuesday.
The DNC has to get behind him, and I think that they're missing the mark if they want to stay in the old way and just get behind who they think is going to win. It's not about, I mean, the people want Bernie. It's not about them. It's about us.
Moving on, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has claimed victory in Israel's general elections, with exit polls putting him in a strong position to form the next government. The election, Israel's third in less than a year, was called after inconclusive votes in April and September left Israel in a political deadlock. Survey gives Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party and its right-wing allies, including ultra-Orthodox parties, 60 seats, one short of a majority. And Yemen's Houthi rebels have seized control of Al-Hassam, a strategic city north of the capital. According to military sources, at least 30 government troops were killed in fighting over the weekend. The Iran-aligned militia captured Al-Hassam, capital of the northern province of Al-Hawaf, enabling the rebels to threaten the oil-rich neighboring province of Marib. Earlier this year, Houthi rebels seized a key supply line linking Marib with Hawaf, provinces located along the border with Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Yemen's armed forces have encircled all Hassam's as Saudi attempts to break Yemeni advances failed. Since the Saudi-led coalition intervened in March 2015, tens of thousands of people, mostly civilians, have been killed and millions displaced in what United Nations has termed the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And fresh protesters have erupted in Guinea, a day after President Alpha Conde postponed a disputed referendum on legislative elections. Originally planned for Sunday, the referendum will decide whether to adopt a new constitution, which includes bans on female circumcision and child marriage. However, the protesters fear that it will also reset presidential term limits, allowing Conde to run for a third term. Backed by the opposition, the protesters vote to continue demonstrating until the referendum is cancelled.
The FNDC will continue its fight until its demands are met. The main one is the reunification by Mr. Alpha Conde of an illegal and conflict-generating modification of the Constitution 8 months before the end of his second and last term. At 83 years of age, a third term. This is not ethically acceptable from a legal point of view, and we will augment our fight against this project.
A United Nations envoy for Libya, Ghassan Salameh, has resigned after nearly 3 years in the past. In a statement posted on his account, Salameh said, "I tried to unite the Libyans and restrain foreign interference, but for health reasons, I can no longer continue with this level of stress, and therefore I have asked the Secretary General to relieve me of my duties." During his time in office, Salameh unsuccessfully tried to prevent the escalation of fighting between the Tripoli-based Government of National Accord and General Khalifa Haftar's so-called Libyan National Army. And as Turkey threatens to let millions of refugees cross into the European Union, migrants inside Greece have been protesting about overcrowding in their camps. Police blocked thousands of migrants who were protesting against deteriorating living conditions in the overcrowded Moira camp on Lesbos Island, which was built to hold fewer than 3,000 people, but currently has more than 19,000. The Greek government plans to build new migrant holdings facilities on the island, but local people are violently protesting the move, saying that the island is at full capacity. On the other side of the border, Turkish volunteers have distributed food to migrants who remain stranded at the border as Greece continues to block most of them from entering the country. Thousands of the migrants, including children, have been forced to sleep in the open since Friday as Greece decided to step up the level of deterrence at its border to the maximum. The government also decided to suspend submission of new asylum applications by those illegally entering the country for 1 month. Over the weekend, Greek authorities barred some 10,000 migrants from entering the country. And as we were saying, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has maintained his call on the European Union to play its part in handling the refugee crisis triggered by violence in the region and give Turkey more assistance with the Syrian conflict.
Either we make sure together that these people go back to living an honorable life on their own lands, or everyone will take their share of this burden.
A United Nations Refugee Agency expressed concern on the conditions faced by the migrants and condemned the Greek authorities for violating international laws in the way the country handling asylum seekers.
We are closely following up with the governments. We're in continuous contact with the authorities across the European Union. At the same time, we have to clearly state that seeking asylum is a fundamental human right, and that is enshrined in international law, and it must be guaranteed. And among the people that we see, including at the land border, but also certainly at the sea borders, are families and individuals that are coming with very likely a refugee profile.
Like this, we come to the end of News Brief. Remember, you can find this and much more other information on our website, telesurenglish.net. The invitation is made for you to continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. Until next time, thank you for watching.